Hey, Tom, you want to sign his balls for him?
Way to go, man. Great player.
I appreciate that, man.
Keep it
For
up.
real.
Love watching you play.
Thank you, dog. Hey, man.
Please just sign the ball.
Listen.
Hey, man, I just want you to know, man, you're the greatest ever, bro.
For real, listen. This is an honor for us, man, to play against you. Seriously. You gonna get out? Hey, you got both of them, huh? You got both of them? Thanks, brother.
Take care. Keep doing your...
Are you ready for some football?
Hello everyone, I am back. So I had COVID a few weeks back, so that meant no vid for a little while. I'm recovered, I've got my natural immunity, so I'm ready to get back to this. The regular season is over. Quite a great finish to the inaugural season of the NRA. A few teams were in the playoff hunt right until the very end. Some of the teams didn't make it in, but that's life in the NRA. For this video, I'm going to recap the week, but I'm going to focus more on where they ended up in the standings and if they made the playoffs or not. So for the first time in a while, let's get to it. Go to Seahawks versus the 49ers. Seahawks finish at 3-11. This team was one of the most underwhelming teams. Lost Breece Hall early in the season. Desmond Ridder never got to start, but he's starting now, so looking forward to that. A.J. Dillon was quite a disappointment. So 3-11, that's actually an overachieving win-loss record at that point. 49ers finish at 7-7. Justin Jefferson ended up being the #1 receiver in the league. Mission complete. Kudos to him. 49ers did not make the playoffs, but they have one of the best fantasy assets. Look out for that team next year. Go to the Colts versus the Texans. The Colts are trash. That's an obligatory statement nowadays. They finished 2-12 and lock up a top 3 pick. Texans have a solid finish as they go 8-6. However, that's not good enough to make the NRA playoffs. We'll see if Daniel Jones starts next year. That's to be determined, but yeah, the Texans looking like they're okay. They got Joe Mixon. We'll see how his team looks next year. It could be another crazy offseason. Saints versus Bucks. Saints, 81 points. Amazing. This team is one of the best teams in the NRA. Did they make the playoffs? No. Unfortunately, it's very sad to not see them in the playoffs, but it was quite a tight race. This is probably the best team not to make the playoffs, and they put up 81 points, and Alvin Kamara is on a bye. That's scary. Hoping this team makes a good run next year. They surely deserve the playoffs, but yeah, this is the NRA. It's tough. The Buccaneers finished 7-7. That's very impressive, especially because they don't have a quarterback. I mean, maybe Malik Willis starts next year. I doubt it. He looks like trash. But 7-7, very impressive. If this team adds a quarterback, look out for them. We've got the Browns versus the Ravens. Both teams fighting to secure a playoff spot. Both teams ended up securing a playoff spot anyway. Ravens have been a solid team all along, especially with Justin Herbert at the helm. It's nice that they're going to get Mike Williams back for a playoff run. That's a huge 1-2 combo. We'll see how they do in the playoffs. The Browns, on the other hand, started off really strong, but kind of have lost quite a few games as of recent. Josh Allen was the MVP frontrunner, but I don't know if we can give it to him now that the Browns are just a wildcard team. But we'll see how these teams fare in the playoffs. Patriots versus Jets. The Patriots looked pretty strong. They kind of fell off, especially as Jamar Chase went down. Amon-Ra St. Brown. This team might have the best receiving duo in the league, but they do have a quarterback problem. Maybe Mike White starts next season. That'd be amazing. Yeah, I'm rooting for him. Kenny Pickett, he's shown improvement, but we'll see. He's probably going to be the starter next year, so look out for the Patriots. They can improve on that 8-6 record next year. The Jets, on the other hand, 4-10. Tony Pollard really starting to break out. Maybe TJ Hawkinson becomes consistent once he's got a full year in the Vikings offense. And Trey Lance, he's definitely waiting for him to recover and come back and be the player who can live up to his potential. At a 4-10 record, this team is going to need a lot to go right next season. Got the Panthers and the Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons made this one interesting. Really, if the Falcons had won this game, the Saints would be in the playoffs, but fortunately for the Panthers, the Falcons did not. The Falcons had an amazing effort from Jerick McKinnon on the last week. The Falcons can hang their hat on Kirk Cousins, pretty reliable quarterback, should be next year. Kyle Pitts, officially done for the season, had an underwhelming season, but the Falcons are hoping that he can live up to his potential. The Panthers, playoff team, pretty solid team all around. I think a lot of people thought this team was the most well-balanced team in the league. They earned a first-round bye. Looking forward to see what they do in the playoffs. Going to the Broncos versus the Chiefs. Broncos are 8-6. The Chiefs are 8-6. These are two teams that ended up with the same record. Chiefs were going for a playoff spot, while the Broncos, under new ownership, decided they'd rather get a better draft position. Really, both of these teams were in it. I think Nick Chubb just kind of fell flat at the end. Unfortunately, the Chiefs did not have enough wins, despite trading for Tannehill. I wonder if they'll have Brady next season. Most likely. He's a divorced man. He's got nothing else to do. Matt Stafford really underwhelmed, but it'll be interesting to see both of these teams next year. I mean, they both have winning records, but 8-6 we know is not enough in the NRA. It's tough out here. Cardinals and Rams. This was for the division and for a playoff spot, and the Rams ended up winning. The Rams looking pretty strong, especially if Jared Goff can keep playing like he does. 36 points from him in the last week. You've got McCaffrey with new life in San Francisco. Eckler. You got Mike Evans, who's struggling, but you can't ever really quite count him out. Yeah, this team looks like they could be a force in the playoffs. Cardinals, on the other hand, Patrick Mahomes really carried this team to the 9-5 record. Looking across the board, the team is not that good. I think Patrick Mahomes really elevates this team. Christian Okonkwo, though, he might be breaking out soon. We'll see. Yeah, Cardinals, unfortunately, they didn't make the playoffs at 9-5. Probably the second best team to not make the playoffs behind the Saints, but they'll be ready next year. Patrick Mahomes ain't going away. Got the Packers versus the Vikings. Oh my god, 2.5 points. Not even 2.5 points for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, it's not looking great for this team. I mean, this team is super young. Maybe they actually turn it around next season. Maybe Zach Wilson is not a bust. I don't know. I'm Team Mike White though. Anyways, the Packers, 45 points. 10-4, they make the playoffs. As far as how far they'll go, I don't know. I'm looking at the roster. I don't quite like it. I'm estimating a first round exit, but we'll see. NRA is crazy. Derek Carr at quarterback with 1.83 points. That's not going to cut it though for a championship. No way. We'll see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. Commanders versus Eagles. Wow, the Commanders have just been lighting up the league recently. If we look at their schedule, my goodness, look at all those points they're putting up. 80s for the past 5 weeks. That's a scary team to watch. They are just a wild card too. Evan Ingram with 46 points. You can expect that from him going forward. Not really. I hate him. He made me lose in my last week in another league. Jalen Hurts, Travis Kelce. This team is pretty stacked. You've got Deontay Foreman too. Oh my god, CeeDee Lamb on the bench. Yeah. This is a team to look out for in the playoffs. They're going to have to survive the wild card round. We'll see where they go. The Eagles under new ownership. Looks like Russell Wilson, maybe he sticks around. 32 points. Good cuts though. Yeah, the Eagles are looking okay. 5-9. They're going to need some improvements to make any noise next season. Dolphins versus Bills. Low scoring affair. Bills did not make the playoffs at 8-6. I think their team is not bad. They are going to need to find a quarterback, however. But there's some pieces there to build. 8-6 is a great record. It's not playoff worthy, as we all know by now. But 9-5 is, because the Miami Dolphins are in the playoffs. 19 points is not going to get it done in the playoffs. But, Justin Fields was on a bye. He's been tearing it up recently. Stephon Diggs, very reliable. Yeah, I think this Dolphins team is going to have to rely on those two to get them far in the playoffs. DeAndre Swift has kind of been pretty quiet, but maybe he can blow up. Kind of a dark horse team to win the championship. We'll see. We've got the Bears versus the Lions. The Bears at 9-5, they do not make the playoffs, unfortunately. Last minute pickup, Zonovan Knight has been pretty good. The Seahawks wide receiver duo has been good in fantasy this year. We'll see about next year. The Bears have Mark Andrews, who's kind of been falling off. And the Detroit Lions. You know, this team has locked up the number 1 pick. They're not in bad position, though. Kyler Murray did go down with a bad ACL injury. Maybe Andrew Luck comes back. Hopefully their quarterback situation is resolved. But they've got promising wide receivers in Drake London and Treylon Burks. Dallas Goedert should come back strong. That was a good trade pickup. Lions, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the most improved team for next year. We've got the Bengals versus the Steelers. Bengals have Trevor Lawrence, who's starting to look like a franchise QB. This Bengals team is young and they're loaded with picks for next season. Kenneth Walker, hopefully he comes back healthy. He's been a beast. Bengals kind of by design wanted to go pretty young and stack up some picks, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see them in the playoffs next year. Steelers, on the other hand, Deshaun Watson, he's back. Not playing well right now, but shaking off all 2 years of rust and 2 years of dirty massage table techniques. A.J. Brown, he's going to be a player next year. Not sure what to say about the rest of the team, though. Steelers at 4-10. They might need to make some moves in order to improve for next season. Got the Jaguars versus the Titans. Geno Smith. Okay, sorry, that's my bias speaking, but Geno Smith and the Jaguars end up with the best record in the NRA. It was looking like Cowboys or Raiders were a lock, but the Jaguars snuck in for the number 1 overall record. This team is pretty solid top to bottom. Quietly solid. I mean, Christian Kirk, Marquise Brown, those aren't like names that really pop out at you, but they're good. They're solid. Even Matt Collins has been, kind of a surprise pickup. Saquon Barkley has been great. It's good to see him back. Yeah, Jaguars should be a team to reckon with in the playoffs. Got the Titans. Finished 2-12, and very surprisingly, you've got talent like Gabe Davis and Devontae Smith. J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately, he was hurt. You got Jonathan Taylor on this team, who kind of had a down year, but don't be surprised if the Titans more than double their win total next season. Got the Giants versus the Cowboys. Giants end up preventing the Cowboys from being the best team in the league. You've got solid roster here. Najee, Juju, Dak Prescott. I think the Giants finishing at 8-6. It's pretty good. They're going to be missing the playoffs this year, but should be in good position to make a run next year. The Cowboys lose their last game of the season, but they're primed for a championship run. Derrick Henry, Adam Thielen, Aaron Rodgers, and Christian Watson have really come alive in these past few weeks. It'll be interesting to see how deep in the playoffs they go. The Raiders versus the Chargers. Chargers finished at 6-8. New ownership immediately decided to not make a run at the playoffs, and looks like they did that successfully. Looks like, they've got Cooper Kupp on the IR. They picked up Van Jefferson via trade. Chargers are going to need some movement here if they want to improve on the 6-8 record. The Raiders have made the playoffs. They were one of the best teams all season. This team, who cares about James Robinson? This team was carried by Ramondre Stevenson throughout the season. Very good pickup for them. Lamar Jackson's out. We'll see if he can come back for the playoff run. It's a good thing this team has a first-round bye, but looking at the team, you got Tyreek Hill. That's always going to keep you in it, but this team is going to need some of its pieces back if it wants to make a deep playoff run. Well, there you have it. We're on to the playoffs now. I'm glad we actually made it to the playoffs. I thought this league was going to fold a few times, especially with the refund scare. But yeah, a lot of fun. Even though I'm not in the playoffs, I did have fun following every team and being the commissioner of this league. So good luck to all the teams in the playoffs. May the best team win, and should be an exciting playoff battle. Get your waivers in, and See you next week.